Stage 4 of the Tirreno-Adriatico, and another long day with variable weather conditions. 190 kilometres in total to Tirreno-Adriatico. Well, elevation gains almost at their very highest. Nothing easy in this race, and they were claiming straight out of the door. Neptune's Trident has never been more hard-fought than this year. So many names still in the frame, and quite frankly, we just did not know who would thrive on the day. Battles for each of the jerseys potentially, and we were underway. Once the flag dropped, how long before we got ourselves a breakaway? There was a lot of probing at the very beginning of the stage, and in fact it took a while for anything to settle down. Once the flag had dropped, it got busy. It was to be a much higher pace on the day, in fact, than on stage 3, and in fact the conundrum of how to take it on was there for all to see. Bursting for the horizon was Tarozzi. He went for it, took a compatriot along with him from Bardiani. There were several incarnations of the break, but crucially, Tarozzi got up to take some KOM points along the way. The mountains tests were one thing, but so was the loop circuit at the end of the day that indeed would be the character. Hold on to the bars, for goodness sake, don't throw it away early. Maestri having a wobble, Arcas was up there for Movistar, Picnic with Liemreitzer, Levy was there for UNO-X, and Rush from Intermarché Wanty. It looked like it might be their day, the cold starting to have an impact on everyone behind them. The struggle was for everybody. Well, with all of the points being taken on the King of the Mountains by those up the road at this point, and in fact the intermediate sprint that would offer itself up very late before a dive down into town, the chase was on, had been instilled, big gaps there certainly were, and the driving force was Ineos Grenadiers and Filippo Ganna, who'd called for pace. Well, the intermediate sprint, all the points and bonus seconds were indeed accounted for, but you couldn't account for the battles that were raging behind those up front. The breakaway still had ideas of glory. Ganna had other ideas, putting the hurt on those behind, and the gaps were starting to open up and become fissures, and many a fast man was in trouble. Let's share the duty, said Rush, and in fact they were indeed doing precisely that. The margins kept coming down and then being re-expanded. It was tough terrain, especially when we got to our circuit, but everyone else was pedal to the metal and hoping to go indeed quickly. Going down fast, I'm afraid, was Rush, who took himself a tumble, and so then there were 4. Temptation certainly for those out front. Lander had had a puncture, had to wrestle his way back in. Others indeed also had their problems, such as Milan, still recovering from his crash the day prior. They were taking the corners very, very gingerly. Well, with 10 kilometres to go, these were the hounds out front, and chased into that gap went Van der Poel. Brilliant work. Who would be tempted to go with him? There was various indeed formations of those with some ambition. Healy once again was very much a defining force, bridging over to 2 remaining from the break, but ultimately it came down to a sprint, and coming out of nowhere, Olaf Koy. Well, he wore a black cape for much of the day, but delivered a fine victory. Super work by him on a day when many of the fast men found themselves hampered by appalling conditions once again. Great racing, truly so, finishing in front of Plumas and Van der Poel in the frame. Staying in the lead overall, Pippo Ganna with that margin of 22 seconds still intact. He says he's worried about the days still to come in this race. Ayuso still looks like our favourite for the race, leading the Young Riders classification at the moment by a margin of 7 seconds. And all credit as well to our King of the Mountain, Tarozzi, picking up 2 more points to extend his lead in that competition over Baies. What an amazing race. And even in times of tribulation, Milan still leads the points. He's in Ciclamino ahead of Koy on 26 points versus 19.